rose up against us, they would have swallowed us up alive. When their wrath was kindled against us, then the water would have drowned us. Our soul would have gone under the raging flood, then our soul would have gone under the unlimited water. Blessed be the Lord, who has not given us for a prey to their teeth. Our soul has been delivered as a sparrow from the snare of the hunters. The snare has broken and we were delivered. Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Alleluia. Those who trust in the Lord are as Mount Zion. He who dwells in Jerusalem shall never be moved. Mountains are round about her, and the Lord is round about his people, from this time and forever. For the Lord shall not allow the wrath of sinners to be upon the law of the righteous, lest the righteous might stretch forth their hands to iniquity. Do good, O Lord, to those who are good, and to those who are upright in their heart. But those who turn to stumble, the Lord will banish with the workers of iniquity. Peace be upon Israel. Alleluia. Blessed are all who fear the Lord and walk in his ways. Shall eat the fruit of your labors. You shall not bless those who shall be unfree. Your wife shall be as a fruitful vine in the side of your house. Your children as young olive plants, plants round about your face. Behold, thus shall the man be blessed who fears the Lord. The Lord shall bless you out of Zion, and you shall see the good things of Jerusalem all the days of your life. And you shall see the children of your children. Peace be upon Israel. Alleluia. Many times they have warred against me from my youth. Let Israel now say, many times they have warred against me from my youth. And yet they have not prevailed against me. The sinners scourged me on my back and prolonged their iniquity. The Lord is righteous, he has broken the necks of sinners. Let all who hate Zion be put to shame and turn back. Let them be as the grass of the housetops, which withers before it is plucked up, with which the reaper does not fill his hand, nor he who gathers up sheaves his bosom. Neither do they who pass by say, the blessing of the Lord be upon you. We have blessed you in the name of the Lord. Alleluia. Holy, holy, holy is the passage of the gospel according to St. Luke. May his blessing be with us all. Amen.
And he rose at the synagogue and to Simon's house, and Simon's wife was taken to hear the name. Professed him concerning her, and he said, over her, and rebuked the fever, and looked at her, and he showed served them. When the sun was setting, all those who had any sick with leprosy, Jesus brought them unto him, and he laid his hands on everyone of them, and he healed them. And the devils also came out of many crying, saying, you were guys of kindly rebuking them, do not allow them to speak, that they know he was Christ.
And glory be to God forever. Amen. We worship you, O Christ, together with you, the Father and the Holy Spirit, for you have come and saved us. If the righteous one is scarcely saved, where shall I, the sinner, appear? Burden me the day I did not endure because of the weakness of my humanity. But, O merciful God, count me with the fellows of the 11th hour. For behold, in iniquities I was conceived, and in sins my mother bore me. Therefore I do not dare to lift up my eyes to heaven, but rather I rely on the abundance of your mercy and love for mankind, crying out and saying, God, forgive me a sinner, and have mercy on me. Hasten, O Savior, to open to me your fatherly bosoms, for I wasted my life in pleasures and lust, and the day has passed by me and vanished. Therefore now I rely on the richness of your never-ending eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Holy, 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 Lord of hosts, heaven and earth are full of your glory and honor. Have mercy on us, O God, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Trinity, have mercy on us. O Lord God, of hosts, be with us. For we have no help in our hardships and tribulations we choose. Absolve, forgive, and remit, O God, our transgressions, those which we have committed willingly, and those which we have committed unwillingly, those which we have committed knowingly, and those which we have committed unknowingly, the hidden and the manifest. O Lord, forgive us for the sake of your holy name, which is called upon us, and let it be according to your mercy, O Lord, and not according to our sin. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. One in Christ Jesus our Lord. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. We thank you, our compassionate King, for you have granted us to pass this day in peace and promise. Even thankfully, and made us worthy to behold daylight until evening. O God, accept our glorification which is offered now. Save us from the trickeries of the adversary. Abolish all the snares which are set against us. Grant us in this coming night peace without pain or anxiety, or unrest or illusions. We may pass it in peace and chastity. Rise up for praises and prayers. And thus at all times and everywhere we glorify your holy name, who is incomprehensible and without beginning, in the Holy Spirit, the giver of life, who is in one essence with you. Amen. Have mercy on us, O God, and have mercy on us at all times and every hour, in heaven and earth, to worship you, Lord God. Christ our God, the good, the long-suffering, the abundant in mercy, the great in compassion, who loves the righteous and has mercy on the sinners, and whom I am chief. Who does not wish the death of the sinner, but rather the eternal needs, who calls all salvation the promise of good things to them. Lord, receive from us our prayers this hour and every hour. Ease our lives and guide us to the foot of your commandments. Sanctify our spirits, cleanse our bodies, conduct our thoughts, purify our intentions, heal our disease. Forgive us our sins, deliver us from every evil, grief, and distress of heart. Surround us by your holy angels and by thy camp, and be guarded of God. Continue music, faith, and knowledge, and let our approach to the Lord. For blessed are thou in the ages of all ages. Amen. Father, thank you so much for bringing us here to this holy place, house. We ask you, Lord, to be on this. We ask you, please, Lord, open our understanding, open our eyes. Open the eyes of our hearts, Lord, please, to hear what you have to say to us, Lord, in your service. Prepare our hearts and prepare our minds, Lord. Grant your grace, O Lord, and wisdom from the Holy Spirit of God. We ask you, Lord, to bring our brothers and sisters who aren't here, Lord. Tug at their hearts and bring them here, Lord, to realize the importance, the value, and the blessing of coming to your house and hearing your words. Forgive us, O Lord, for our shortcomings. We know we're weak. Give us grace. Give us strength in everything that we do, O Lord, in work, in school, in our sports, in our activities, in our relationships. Grant us peace and grace. Give us power from the Holy Spirit, O Lord. Fill us with your love, O Lord. Help us to love one another as you love us, Lord. We ask these things through the intercessions of Saint Mary and all your saints. Saint Justine, hear us and we pray thankfully, our Father who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from the evil one. For Christ Jesus alone. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Let's sing some hymns or songs or something. Is something going on tonight? Graduation? Party? Going? Is it good? Is it having a party or something? They're going somewhere
it's like a kind of like a lounge. It's like this. I don't know what it is. It's like
No,
there's
I
like
get the idea.
it's like in Huntington. There's like different rooms. Each room's like a different setting. It's like a really cool, but it's obviously 21 and over.
Oh,
But it's like supposed to be like a really cool type of venue.
I guess you call it.
It's not a club. It's not even like that. But
Oh, okay.
it's like you go, and then each there's like different rooms within the area,
Oh.
and each room is like a different like kind of theme. Yeah. So I guess it's like really cool. It's like whatever country theme has that kind of drinks from that country, that kind of food. I think it's something like that.
Wow.
So it sounded cool. I liked it.
Yeah.
I know what it's called. I'll look.
Nice.
But yeah. So let's get started.
I'm excited to hear that. We'll give it some more time. I mean,
Actually, there's two.
the last result.
Yeah. So Bula said, or Moira said, when I start actually talking about speaking in tongues, hearing so it's not just like,
Or, well, Mary, she's having something separate for her.
Mary who?
Sisters. She's also Southern.
Oh.
Let us pray. So we don't lose anything there. Or he did it?
I got it from
Saint Tekla, sainttekla.org. Let us pray the Lord hears.
ordinary.
Let's praise the Lord lyrics
Yes.
from Saint Techno.
Yeah, that's the one.
Did you want it with sound? I don't know.
We're gonna say it. Let us pray the Lord. Let he ascended into heaven.
Is it begin?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah. Should I use a mic? Just for the live stream. Okay. Yeah, I guess. I don't really do. No. I'll hold the laptop. I'm gonna sit down.
So this is more convenient.
All right, thank you.
Down
Thank you. All right, let's get her done.
We're blessed today to have Joseph, who very clearly prepared nicely for us for this presentation on this really interesting topic. So, God give us His blessing. Thank you so much, Joseph.
Thank you, guys. So this is my first time giving a talk, so bear with me with any, thank you, blunders I may have throughout this. I put a few memes in there so it can be enjoyable for you guys. Okay, so basically what I'm going to be talking about is the like scientific evidence behind Noah's Ark. Like so obviously scientists can will say that it didn't happen because it was like impossible for flood to cover the whole earth and this, but this dives into some research that it's actually a fairly new study, but on why it was possible to happen. So introduction. For there to, or after the flood, we know that there was only Noah and his family left. So if we can date genetics back to a human population bottleneck, and basically that bottleneck was the flood, like the small population after the flood. What happened?
That's interesting.
Oh yeah. So we're gonna see how like the mutations in both mutations are the changes in the DNA sequence, like we all have a specific sequence that our DNA goes by, and when that gets altered or like there can be mistakes, that's what a mutation is. Y chromosomes, we're gonna see mutations in both the Y chromosomes and mitochondria DNA, and it points to the 4 men and the 4 women who are on the Ark known as family around 4,500 years ago. Also this scientific study also goes to prove like the existence of Adam and Eve. Although I mean we're not. We believe it's true, but people out there they don't. Yeah. So basic DNA stuff. Males, they carry the X and Y chromosome. I don't know why I'm yelling. Females carry 2 X chromosomes. Therefore, the X chromosome can only be passed on from father to son. Y, sorry. The Y chromosome can only be passed on to father to son. I think I messed up there. See what I mean? Yeah, okay. Mitochondrial DNA. So what people, I don't know, not a lot of people know, is that we have our own DNA that's inside of our nucleus of our cells, and then the mitochondria actually has its own DNA, the mtDNA. So they have their own separate strand of DNA separate from the main nuclear chromosomal DNA. And since the mitochondria contained in the fertilized egg are used at conception, the mtDNA is only inherited from the mother. Males are like dead end for this DNA. Hold on a second. I like the SpongeBob one. What I learned in cell bio is mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. You guys knew that, right? Like, have you heard that before? It's literally the only thing that people come out of bio learning. So mutations. Oh, yeah, it was need an ark. I know a guy. Cause like Noah. Let me go to that slide actually. Now that you said it. You guys get it? Okay. Back to mutations. Like I was saying before, when DNA contains the sex chromosomes and mtDNA are passed down to offspring, mutations, copying errors, from like old DNA strands to new ones. It's not a lot because our bodies are pretty efficient, you know. But there's every so often there's an error that occurs, and that's what a mutation is. DNA receives over 100 mutations per generation, while empty DNA receives a lot less because it's a lot smaller and it's not as prone to errors. So approximately 1,600 base pairs compared to, so like there's 3 million base pairs approximately in our DNA. The empty DNA only has about 16,000, so it's a lot less, and it's a lot less prone to errors because of that. And because of these mutations, DNA and empty DNA have been slowly diverging from the DNA and DNA of our first ever ancestors, whose possible identities are about to be discussed. And there's Wolverine there because he's a mutant. Oh yeah, he's the best. So how does this tie into the flood? Genesis states there was 8 people in the ark: Noah and his wife, their 3 sons, and their 3 wives. So there should be signs of a population bottleneck in humanity when humanity almost became extinct. And that bottleneck was Noah and his family after the flood.
Can you explain that a little bit? What that term means, like bottleneck?
Oh, yeah, of course. So a bottleneck is basically like, so there was a large, in terms of what I'm talking about with population, there's a large population of people. And then something happened, let's say the plague, or in this case it was a flood, and it wiped out a lot of people. And so what happens is the population, it got smaller to where it like bottlenecks at like the neck of a bottle. See how it's a lot smaller than the rest? So this was the population. And then after the flood, the population shrunk to a bottleneck. That's what that term means here. So then, yeah, I'm sorry. Did you? Okay. There was 3 sons that inherited the Y chromosome from Noah, and since it's only 1 generation down, mutations would have been like little to none in this case. And like as we said before, the Y chromosome was only passed down from the father. So there should be only 1 Y chromosome lineage to our world today, just because we had a bottleneck, and because Noah and his 3 sons were the only people on the earth at that time. The Y chromosome was only in their family lineage, so that means that there should only be 1 Y chromosome lineage to be passed down to us today. Okay? So there was how many different mtDNAs in the ark for offspring? 3. There was 3 wives of Noah. The 3 wives of Noah's sons. The Bible doesn't mention anyone else and his wife had any more children, so there should be 3 mtDNA lineages today. Okay. So basically, these 3 empty DNA lineages should trace back to a single female ancestor, which is Eve, a biblical Eve. Proof of this that these 3 empty DNA lineages are similar. Okay, so due to the relatively high amount of mutations, humans pass down approximately 100 mutations per generation, and that the flood occurred about 4,500 years ago. Genetic diversity in humans today should be consistent with thousands, not millions of years. So that just kind of proves anyone that says that humans, range back, over 100 million years ago. So all this proves, the human history. I mean, this is more for human history, not like the age of the earth, because that's not relevant right now. But genetic diversity should be consistent with the thousands of years that humans have only lived, which we believe they've only lived on this planet.
Since after the flood, right? Since the time of regeneration happened.
Yeah. Okay. So, going back to genetics. I don't know, can you guys read those? Do you want me to read them? Okay. So, discover genetics, you deserve a Mendelian. So, Mendel was, do you know? You know. Okay. And then the problem with the gene pool is there's no lifeguard. Okay, sorry. These are great. So the Human Genome Project was declared complete in April 2003. One of its findings was that all humans have virtually identical DNA. They suggested this is due to the population bottleneck in our past. And I just think scientists are so reluctant because a lot of them obviously are not Christian or within the faith. So they're so reluctant to say that this population bottleneck was because of some crazy flood. But basically, it all ties back into this bottleneck, and all the traces go back about 5,000 years. And when that happens, it's like obviously, okay, this is Noah's Ark. In our past, where numbers dwindled so low that the bottleneck. So Y chromosomes are indeed similar worldwide. There's no divergent Y lineages have been found. So because with all the research today, and the fact that there still hasn't been a divergent Y lineage, proves that the Y lineage came from one lineage, which was Noah's family. So that same lineage has been passed down, so it proves that there hasn't been, there wasn't like another family living after Noah's flood or anything like that. So all of this all just ties back right back into Noah. What?
In terms of like Y chromosomes, your genetics is not really based on it, like at all. The only main thing is like male versus female, but other than that, it's not really.
Yeah, for sure.
The interesting thing is, like what Joseph's mentioning, is that why predominantly now exists because was why that he had at the time. Makes sense?
No. What I'm saying, there's no variations of the Y chromosome, the male chromosome. So what I'm tying that back into is that it proves that there was a bottleneck, and that bottleneck was what happened after the flood, and only Noah's family lived. And because Noah, being the only male, he had 3 sons. And because all those sons were from Noah, they had the same Y chromosome. And because they're all part of the same family, and there's only that one Y chromosome, and the fact that there's no other lineages of Y chromosomes, just, it proves that, okay, it was Noah. Yeah. What was I saying? Okay, yeah. So, and then also now back to the mtDNAs, which are only passed down through female ancestry. I mentioned that there was 3. So evolutionists have labeled these as M, N, and R. There's little difference between these 3. So they must have originated from a single female, Noah's wife. And then which goes back to prove the same thing with the Y. So there's only one. There's what?
Can I just argue, for argument's sake, back then, there wasn't that many mutations.
Oh, yeah.
So, consistency-wise, there shouldn't be any variations between ML and MLR in that regard. So, someone from outside, I would argue, would do that same,
But we don't know if there was 3 different at the time. Right now, we can trace 3. You know what I mean? Right now, we can trace 3 over thousands of years since the flood, over 5,000 years since the flood. There has been mutations for sure. So that's why. So at the time, obviously, I'm pretty sure there was only one, variation of mtDNA. So over time, it must have mutated. That's why we can trace 3 right now. But since there's such little difference, because mutations can just be in one little, out of the 16,000, I forget the name, sequences, maybe one of them could have been changed, and then that changed from M to N and then N to R. So that's why, yeah. Okay, here we go.
No, I know. It's good you're stimulating thoughts.
Okay, I don't have to go through all of this. I just pulled up some stats that I found. But, so let me just read a few of them, ones that I like. Okay, we estimate that approximately 73% of all protein coding SNVs and approximately 86% of all SNVs predicted to be deleterious arose in the past 5,000, 10,000 years. So we don't have an exact date, obviously, for Noah's Ark, but we have a rough... we have a rough idea of when it was. So the fact that we can just trace all of these the protein coding SNVs I'm referring to in the past 5,000, 7,000 years, it's it's all pointing towards the bottleneck. Let's see here. Which one did I want to talk about? Okay. This point, if evolution is to be believed, then for hundreds of thousands of years, human DNA hardly received any mutations. Then in the past few thousand years, most of the DNA damage we've all inherited occurred. Sounds feasible? Or how about this? There was simply no human history prior to a few thousand years ago. So they're talking about, what's it called? The fact that it was just, we believe that after the flood, you know, it was Noah. All of this roughly talk about the same thing, but like it's just different types. Like, you know, you can get it from protein sequences, you can get it from the mtDNA, you can get it from the Y. It's just like all of these all of this data kind of shows you what it is, but scientists are really reluctant. And then so I think also like one people would be like, okay, like issues with like inbreeding. So but then what I read, and it made sense. Like they were saying that like inbreeding, since like deformities occur when both parents have the same defective gene. So if organisms do not have genetic defects, there's no problem. Since Adam and Eve were created with perfect genomes with no genetic defects, their offspring would not have suffered from the ill effects of inbreeding like we would today. Due to, yeah. So yeah, same with Noah as well. So that's why even if there was inbreeding there wouldn't have been like deformities or anything. That's why, you know, I think you know, God has a plan for everything. So that was that. This is just a summary of everything. There's a lot of words. I'm just wrapping it up. I don't want to take too much time here, but yeah. I just thought it was really cool when I came across this topic. Kuku told me about this. He's reading about it, and he's the one who gave me an idea for this. So I researched it, and so I just thought it was really cool. I don't know what you guys have to say about it. And then, so this is my last point, I believe. Did you guys see that? I'm going to do it again. Look at it.
That's pretty cool.
I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Okay, sorry. So why haven't we heard of this before? Like, why haven't... I'm pretty sure when I brought this topic up, I don't know if a lot of you have heard about this topic or maybe, like, thought about it or whatever, but it was back to this saying where, like, okay, so it's kind of... So scientists, they need, like... Okay, like, what I wrote here was... Scientists need to know that one of the basic guiding principles of science is naturalism. It means that supernatural causes must be ruled out of scientific explanations. All proposed scientific explanations must be testable and repeatable. Obviously, the flood can't. All proposed scientific explanations must be and obey physics laws. Scientists simply cannot explain an event by invoking divine intervention. So they're not going to be like, you know, God created the earth in 7 days. That's why Big Bang, right? So they're not going to be like, oh, some higher being, a divine intervention, just snapped his fingers and created this. You know, a divine intervention, God, he didn't just, like, you know, snap his fingers and he made the world flood. You know, they have to have, like, explanation for everything. That's why there's not a lot of research on this topic, and that's why they would be so reluctant to, like, accept the fact that bottleneck had to do with Noah's flood. Yeah. I did. I was reading articles about it, but I just didn't have the. I don't know. Maybe if I gave this talk again, I could do it on the geological point of view. But I did read stuff about it. But I just thought I would just focus on this one thing for today. I didn't want to make it like a 40-slide presentation. So yeah, that was the end. What? Oh no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I like the curtains too. Look at that. It's like. What? Oh, it's done. Oh, the meme on the previous one. I don't know. I saw it and I thought it was funny, so I just put it. Is why didn't you tell me that I needed to tell you that? You get it? It's like, why haven't we heard this before? Why didn't you tell me that I needed to tell you? The end. And then that's a scene from Evan Almighty.
Very good movie.
Great movie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me.
Before we end, are there any thoughts or questions on the topic in general? So why is this topic important? Why would it be relevant or practical for our faith? That's kind of where how do you see this topic to be relevant to our faith? What do you think?
I think the main issue that we face in our church is that people sit in their, you guys can hear me.
So it's on live stream in case the question answers my benefits.
So the main reason that we face, the problem that we face in our church is that either some people that are not knowledgeable within the science say that there is a separation between science and religion, and people that are not knowledgeable with the religion say the same thing. However, I mean, we're not saying that the Bible should be taken as a genetics book, but it has some scientific elements to it that should be considered, and science and religion are not separate.
Very good point. Very good.
Science proves our religion. So this is one of the
Yeah.
small.
It does exactly, and that's what a lot of scientists are coming to grips with, that reality, and they're making connections where science is, like you were saying, was proving the truth behind the biblical. But that's a really good point, David. Any thoughts? Thoughts first? So the question was, because I think it's really interesting to see. It's really interesting to see, Yani, what Joseph was talking about, Yani, the genetics behind it, the science behind it, which was very deep actually. Yani. It actually reminded me of Father Gregory. Spending a lot of time with Father Gregory.
But I want to get it back.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to. Huh? The bit. Private session.
So,
Instead of yours 20 minutes.
no, it's very interesting. Joseph was touching on the chromosomes, the Y and the X, and how the regeneration of the population, there was a bottleneck effect. And before the flood, there was obviously a large, massive population on the earth, and then how even science has revealed that there's a small, yeah, it's very, very interesting.
And then after the flood, like on the freeway, how when you have traffic, and then it goes to the bottleneck, you call it the bottleneck, and then when it opens up to other freeways, and then it spreads out again. So it's yeah, that's a good one.
So the question was, after this rich presentation, it gets our mind thinking a little bit about where does a topic like this, a historical topic like this, but yet scientific, with evidence that can support it, where does it tie into our relationship with God and how is it relevant? That's kind of the thought. You know what I mean? Because it's wonderful to know this and it's important. So how does that strengthen, say, your faith?
Sorry. I was playing the bird again. Yeah. That's a bird. It's got that's cool.
Very appropriate because the dove. Remember the dove from Noah's Ark?
That's exactly what I thought of. That's right where my mind went to.
Good job. Any thoughts, girls? Anything? Yeah.
So, what was mainly the purpose of this presentation? Just in one sentence.
the purpose was to connect science and religion, how science proves our religion. And the Bible, yes. The end.
Thank you so much. Really, thank you for taking the time. Obviously, it's a very colorful, animated, and rich with facts, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Good job.
Gracias.
Because I heard there's a couple of people who have birthdays and they.
Well, that's not my business. I'm just kidding.
So guys, this is a beautiful example, and I'm talking to you guys, to you girls specifically. It's a wonderful example of how you can use your talents to encourage us all. So, like the Bible says, that no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers. So, and Joseph took the time to prepare something that is, I think,
The whole day, actually.
nice.